Hello everyone and welcome to episode 7 of Offbeat.
We have an amazing guest with us today, a man that needs no introduction. So I'm not going to go give him one.
You should though.
Okay, Australian television and radio and author of numerous books, including his most recent book, Puff Piece, Mr. John Safran.
We are very thrilled to have him on the program, but first, Santa has delivered early before Christmas with the news that Alan Jones has been let go from Sky News.
What's he going to do now, retire?
No, he's out there looking for work. He just sent his resume into The Onion and The Chaser for a position on their team.
How did he go?
No luck. His stories were too far-fetched, even for them.
Shame.
Next week, we'll be joined by a new host, Mr. Alex Jonas. Daniel Craig's fifth James Bond film, No Time To, has finally arrived in Australian theatres this month. Originally set for an April 2020 release, the film is one of the very first blockbusters to be delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic. It's been a long 19 months for fans of the 007 agent as...
19 months?
Excuse me?
Try being an ABBA fan.
I'd really rather not.
40 years between The Visitors and The Voyage, their new album, okay? Like, Kendra, James Bond's fans have nothing. Nothing.
Even so, it's not a contest.
True. While I still loved The Voyage, I also really enjoyed No Time to Die.
Oh, how did you watch it?
Pirated.
Not sure you're supposed to admit that. I'm seeing it tonight and I'm so excited.
Excited enough not to be mean to ABBA. You wouldn't want me to drop any spoilers, would you?
You know there's a song on that album called Keep Your Eye on Dan. Didn't know ABBA was against Daniel Andrews.
At the end, when James Bond gets shot, I just could not believe that part where he...
Okay, no more dissing ABBA.
Now let's talk about something everybody enjoys. Video games. And what couldn't be a better video game to talk about than Minecraft?
A true classic.
I know. I'm just having a good old time miming and crafting using the name after all.
I just like seeing
a writer and critic who has taken the time to recreate land art in the blocky landscape on her art island.
From Jeff Koons' Puppy to Christo and Jean Claude's Surrounded Islands, Hannah has painstakingly recreated land art highlights into Minecraft and onto her Twitch channel, which has a small but growing audience.
Yeah, I just think they've done Milton Bakara's Meteorite.
Why don't you make it yourself?
You know what? I should.
Go for it. I've even recreated some historical landmarks in Minecraft.
Really? What have you built?
Well, I've built the Sydney Opera House and...
Isn't there supposed to be an image or something?
Yeah, let's wait a second. Oh, there you go.
Very nice.
Thank you. And I also made the big pineapple.
Yeah, you really captured the pineapple-ness of the pineapple.
And thanks again. Have you made anything?
Well, I did a recreation of one of Melbourne's most iconic pieces of architecture, completely life-sized and down to the finest detail. Yep, I did. I made the Eureka Tower.
Right. It's very grand.
I know.
If our artistic endeavours didn't inspire you, maybe our next guest will. Coming up, Mr. John Safran on the show, and your phone is about to buzz in approximately 2 minutes. Don't check it. We'll be right back after this break. John Safran is a journalist, broadcaster and author of books including Murder in Mississippi and Depends What You Mean by Extremist. His latest book, Puff Piece, puts a flame under the tobacco industry's past practices, as well as exploring the impact vaping has on our health, kids and culture. Please welcome me in joining John Safran to the show. John, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to Offbeat.
No, always good to be on RMI TV.
That's so good. So firstly, congratulations on your book, Puff Piece, which was published this year, which brings up a very interesting topic in modern day society. We all know smoking has declined in Australia over the last few decades. What drew you to look at what tobacco companies were up to?
I was just confused, and I wanted to, and my intuition was saying I should de-confuse myself. I saw a full-page ad in the newspaper by Philip Morris to Melbourne people saying they're going to shut down as a cigarette company and relaunch as a health enterprise. I was like, is that true? Because I thought maybe it is true. It was just going to be one of these momentous moments in history, like the fall of the Berlin Wall or something like that. And then I found out it's not true. Oh, sorry, it's more complicated than that. And then I was confused why no one was interested in this story, in that Philip Morris were pulling off this, I keep on trying to think of a better word than ruse, maybe ruse. They were trying to pull off this ruse, and they had pulled off this ruse, and no one had noticed that the ruse being that cigarettes, menthol cigarettes getting banned in Europe with a mind to banning all cigarettes all across Europe, and then them coming back with going, okay, well, yeah, we won't produce cigarettes anymore. We'll produce this thing. It's a heat stick, and it looks exactly like a cigarette because it kind of is. And so it's not a vape. Like, it's so much about this is having to machete through the weeds of confusion. Like, for instance, as soon as you start talking about this, people's minds might immediately go, oh, he's talking about vaping, but it's not vaping. It's this third thing. And Philip Morris totally leverage that we're all confused about this, including me.
So what most surprised you when writing Puff Piece?
They claim that this new product they have that looks exactly like a cigarette, they say, oh, because the tobacco within it is only heated to an incredible degree, as opposed to catching a light, the discharge that looks incredibly like smoke and contains nicotine and tobacco that you inhale into your lungs. They go, oh, it's not technically smoke because it's only been heated to an incredible degree, and something has to catch a light for it to be smoke, which that's so much fudging in there. But anyway, let's park that to one side. Anyway, but then I was digging through some old an old science journal. When I say old, not that old, maybe I can't remember, maybe 4 years old or something. 5 years, and they like to submit some of their studies to these highbrow, well-regarded medical journals, because then there's this association. It's like, oh, as we had published in the Oxford Medical Journal, then, and everyone's like, oh, Oxford, they're kind of, that sounds like something famous. Anyway, so what I'm saying is they try to hide, they don't want to reveal anything, but then there's this one exception. They don't want to reveal anything about their science and the intricacies, but there's this one exception where they want to get published in medical journals. Anyway, I was looking through an old one of those, and they were discussing this product that we've been talking about as discharging smoke. And I was like, got them. Like, and the best guesswork I could do about it is because they're so careful never to refer to this discharge as smoke, because their whole angle is it's not smoke, and because it's not smoke, it's not smoking, and then they can just, and because it's not smoking, it's healthier, or they imply, or whatever. But I'd caught them out, or their scientists out, calling the discharge smoke, and then I realized, or at least this was my guess, was the scientists had started doing that particular study before the marketing department had decided that their whole thing was going to be how this doesn't discharge smoke. So I'd sort of like found this little shred of evidence. I'm like Indiana Jones of the discharge being smoke. So yeah, there were lots of little adventures like that where I got to, in my own little way, kind of trip them up a little bit.
Because you purchased some shares in Philip Morris, as you sort of touched on, in order to ask some difficult questions at their AGM. Can you take us through how that went?
One thing I learned was everything they do is about misdirection. They're all trying to make you think about something else or start going down some rabbit hole or chase some red herring and get your eyes off what the main game is. So even the whole idea where they're saying this discharge that comes out of this new product isn't actually smoke. Even that's like this misdirection about, oh, is it smoke? Isn't it smoke? Is it smoke? Isn't it smoke? Because I realized that what kills you in a traditional cigarette, because their argument, I know this is all confusing, but it's not my fault. It's like they've tricked me, and this is, even though I'm kind of babbling on and going in all these sorts of directions, like I can't make it even any simpler than that because Philip Morris have made it so complicated. Anyway, so their thing is, this is what Philip Morris says. They say smoke is what kills you, is the main thing that kills you in a traditional cigarette. This new product doesn't emit smoke, and therefore it doesn't contain the thing that kills you in a traditional cigarette. And let's just pretend it's true that this new product doesn't emit smoke. We'll go along with it, even though it's a fart. But let's just go along with it. I realized later on that them saying that what kills you in a cigarette is smoke is both accurate, but like this incredibly ingenious misdirection too, because more precisely, what kills you in a cigarette is the tar in the smoke. So therefore, the question really isn't, does this new product emit smoke? It's more, does this new product emit tar? And the answer is yes, it does. And so you're still in, let's say it's not smoke, you're still inhaling the tar, which is the thing that kills you in a traditional cigarette. And but then I realized even that's a bit of a misdirection, because what the real question is, almost like the only question is why do people hate cigarettes? Because they give you cancer. So will this new product give you cancer? And I just realized no one's ever asked Philip Morris that before. Like, because they're so good at like sending people, like asking all these other questions. Is it smoke? Is it not smoke? Is it, is it a cigarette? Is this more a vape or not a vape or whatever? So then when I got onto their meeting, I did ask the scientist. I said, listen, the things people hate in a cigarette is that gives you cancer. Will this new product not give me cancer, like the same kind of cancer that a cigarette will give me? And they had to concede, and it was like no one had ever asked them that before. So I got them on record for the first time saying that we can't say this product won't give you cancer.
Yeah.
But you managed to front load it with all the misdirections, that because they talk about how it contains less of the carcinogens and this and that. It's got less this, less that. It's they come up with all this stuff. It's 95% blah blah more blah blah. They've just got all this stuff, but it's like, who cares if it's still going to give you cancer? Who cares?
Going a little bit away from the Puff Piece book, going to talk about some of your other stuff. So through Race Relations and John Safran versus God, you quoted some pretty controversial topics. How do you know where the line is and when it's worth stepping over it?
Oh, well, clearly, as you know by my work, I don't know where the line is. So that's an issue. I'm generally... I like I'm more kind of definite about it now. Like, you kind of go along with instinct for quite a bit early on in your career when you're young, at least I did, or whatever. And then you get older and people start asking you questions, they start thinking a bit harder about your work, and you start figuring out, well, what am I doing? What am I, or whatever. And then I realized I'm a storyteller, which I know that sounds really simple, but let me explain, which is more like, well, what aren't I if I'm a storyteller? So these are a bit like long-winded, but we will get there. So I think when people read or see something that's non-fiction, they think it's like either it's journalism or it's an op-ed, an opinion piece, or they think it's activism. And I would say that my work it draws on those tools. So I use all those things in some ways, like I do use the tools of journalism, and I use the tools, I guess, of having an op-ed. I often have opinions or whatever, and in some ways, I guess it's sort of activism, sort of, although I reckon that's a bit woollier and looser or whatever. But I think ultimately I just use all those tools for storytelling, to tell a story. And I think I really am more a storyteller who uses those tools. So to give you an example, because it all sounds a bit airy-fairy, is in Puff Piece, like I spoke to other cigarette companies. I didn't just speak to Philip Morris. But then when I was writing the book, it's like, as a storyteller, it's just works so much better, you know, in that traditional, like the little guy goes out to slay the dragon. It just made the story just made so much more sense. And also me as a character in the story, which now we're getting really confusing, because I'm saying there's a distinction between John Safran and John Safran, the character in the book. But it's just like funnier in the book that my character in the book is like mono obsessed with Philip Morris. And because that says something about my character. And also it makes me, I don't know, it just works better. It's really hard to explain, but it's like, it just works better that I'm like a character that's mono obsessed with slaying this one dragon or whatever, rather than like, if I was just doing journalism, I'd be like, I'm going to compare this cigarette company to that cigarette company. And I'm going to and now I'm going to go to the Liberal Party and I'm going to do the Labor Party or whatever. And it's like, I just don't want to do that if it's going to make the story work.
John Safran, it's been so good to have you on the show this morning talking about your new book, Puff Piece.
Thank you.
Is published by Hamish Hamilton and is available in the dwindling number of bookstores that still exist and online. So thank you so much for talking to us.
And you can listen to it on as an audio book. And I squeak.
And audio book.
So if you've been like, oh, that sensuous, deep, bassy voice I've been hearing in this interview, can I really hear more of that? You can.
Audiobook. Go to the
Cool.
audiobook first. I reckon that would be the good one. All right.
So thank you very much for having me on.
Everybody is rushing out of Melbourne for a post-lockdown getaway. Everyone except you, because you're chronically indecisive. Now, all the Airbnbs are booked out and your partner is seating quietly at the end of the couch. Don't worry, because we've got our travel expert Blair here to save the day.
Now that lockdown has ended, you want that secluded romantic getaway far from it all. The problem is, so does everybody else. Fortunately, there's a new accommodation service for people looking for that extra secluded, Instagram-perfect holiday spot. Welcome to Ehover. Ehover is your guaranteed getaway to holiday accommodation on the homespun side. At Ehover, we rent out the accommodation spots no one ever thought of. Spend a summery weekend in a light-filled cabin with all natural air conditioning. Have a romantic Christmas Eve in a genuine Bethlehem-style barn. Get in touch with your inner child and find out why Daddy spent all of his time in the garage. Check out our new range of cozy accommodations. They're extra intimate. Did somebody say mobile home? Well, we've got you covered. Beach houses? Covered. Romantic tree houses? Let me think. Yes, covered. Quaint, austere, bucolic, idyllic. These are all words I just googled to describe Ehover's unbelievable accommodations. With the right Instagram filter, your friends won't believe it either.
Welcome back. businesses in the CBD back on their feet after lockdown, the government is introducing a midweek Melbourne money discount scheme. Aside from that very satisfying alliteration, the scheme will allow visitors all across Melbourne when visiting bars, restaurants and cafes to claim 30% back on their bill when they spend between $50 to $500 between the days of Monday and Thursday. This will apply to locations in places such as Lygon Street, North Melbourne and South Bank. However, we were unable to talk to any cafe owners in these areas because they're super busy getting customers back. However, to fill this invaluable time slot, we did secure an interview with a cafe owner from what I think is Docklands. It certainly shares the same characteristics of Docklands. Please welcome Dave Mould to the show. Welcome, Dave.
Hi, Kendra. Thanks so much for promoting our business on the show. We really need this.
No problem, Dave. I take it that lockdown hit your business very hard.
Yeah, that's what it was. It hit us really hard. The customers dried up. We went from full business every single day to nothing.
I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm sure this new scheme has been a huge help to luring customers back.
Well, it's a step in the right direction. It's a bit silly, but there's still a lot of prejudices about fine dining establishments out here in the Docklands. People have this crazy notion that our establishment isn't clean or safe. I mean, just because we here in the Docklands don't have these kind of fancy traditional restaurants.
Yes, I do notice that you have a very grungy aesthetic. Is this a stylistic choice?
No, we can't afford it. I mean, yes, it's an aesthetic choice. When you come to dine at our establishment, you don't get an artifice. What you get is what you see.
And what you get is eating dangerously close to rubbish bins.
Oh. Yeah, but it's the Docklands. So what you see is nice, clean, new rubbish.
Oh, okay, but I do notice that you are down a dark alleyway. It looks like a place where people would engage in shady activities like drug dealing.
Come on, there's tons of restaurants and cafes down alleyways in Melbourne.
Yes, usually an alleyway where there are other cafes and restaurants and lots of people, so it's not nearly as isolated and frankly dodgy.
Well, despite our aesthetic shortcomings that you've so charitably described, we do have good food. In fact, we're so confident that you will love our food that we've taken a step out of the government's playbook and reduced our meals even further.
Really?
Yes. You can come to any of our fine dining establishments and save 60% off. And unlike the government, we don't have any specific places that you have to come and eat. We don't have any specific time periods that you have to abide by. Anytime, anywhere, 60% off. Hear that, sir? Sir. Hear that? 60% off your bill if you come and eat here. It's good, clean rubbish. I mean, food, please.
What sort of food do you guys actually serve at your place?
Whatever we find in the trash. I mean, whatever tickles our fancy for that day. We're an alternative cafe. We alter the menus daily, and we cater to a niche meal.
In more international news, a man from Indiana in the United States, Reed Alexandra, has found his true love, Rafael Diaz, on the dating app Tinder. But instead of winning his heart over, he found himself with a new kidney.
That's right. Alexander was diagnosed with a kidney disease at the age of 17. His symptoms progressed to the point where they were only functioning at 20% capacity. Eventually, Alexander met Diaz through Tinder and was upfront about his medical condition.
Before they knew it, the couple were engaged and Diaz was a viable donor for the replacement kidney that saved Alexandra's life.
Wow, talk about true love. In fact, because of these inspiring events, a new dating app has surfaced right here in Australia.
Please welcome our wonderful IT expert, Stu Mack, to showcase a new way to connect with partners over the phone. Tender, a place for your heart.
Felicitations, I am an expert. Welcome to the latest and greatest app that will have you and your friends, family, pets, and lovable neighborhood racers literally jumping out of their skin to buy. Tender, an offshoot of Tinder, is designed the exact same way. You can match with a partner, but instead of finding sweet love, you'll find sweet, sweet organs. That's right, we'll match you up with the perfect organ for your perfect life. Looking for that special long-term kidney, or maybe just a quick hookup on the weekend for a bladder? We've got you covered. Designed for all ages, backgrounds, ethnicities, and cultures, Tender is the go-to app for connecting with your fellow organ dealers. You'll be swiping right at everyone. Swipe left on all those pesky organs and swipe right to match with those beautiful, beautiful spleens. But we're not done yet. Our app costs exactly $0.00. But good luck getting past all their pop-ups and ads. That's right, folks. Our first 500 customers, users, will get one free vein sample. Our app is accessible to almost everyone. With built-in touchscreen notifications, colors, and pretty menus, we have all the gizmos needed to make sure that we can fill your deepest, darkest desires. Tender, a place for your heart, and lungs, stomach, pancreas, intestines, muscles, arteries, lymph nodes, gallbladder, and brain. Actually, now that I mention it, myself and my company have been in search for new brains to fill our hollow heads. Tender, now on the App Store and Google Play, right now.
That's all we have time for in this episode.
Thank you so much to John Safran for joining us today and showing his support for RMI TV Productions. His new book, Puff Piece, is out now.
There's only 3 episodes to go after this, so put the dates in your diary. We are planning something truly epic.
Hey, what? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm just saying that so they'll get excited.
Who?
The audience.
We have an audience?
See you next time.